Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting with something that is uh, just deceptively simple.
Mm-hmm.
The act of walking over to your kitchen sink, turning the tap, and expecting with, absolute certainty clean, safe water to flow out instantly.
It is the ultimate non-negotiable expectation of modern life, isn't it?
It really is.
Yet that simple, immediate convenience hides a system so vast, so ancient, and so incredibly complex that it quite literally underpins the stability of our civilization.
Absolutely. And the water you hold in your glass today has a history that spans billions of years.
Right.
It flows through millions of miles of pipe network hidden just beneath our streets. It's managed by predictive AI, and its safety is governed by some of the most rigorous and, frankly, critical public health policies ever enacted.
And that is our mission today. We want to provide you with the essential shortcut, the full 360-degree view of this interconnected world of water management.
Connecting the dots.
We're connecting the dots from, the fundamental cosmic chemistry that makes H2O unique to the staggering engineering required for the infrastructure, the emerging digital threats and opportunities, and the complex policies governing public trust and safety.
And we've assembled a fantastic stack of sources for this deep dive, which is, it's necessary because the topic is just so broad.
It's huge.
We're covering fundamental physics, the strange rules that govern water's behavior, alongside these really granular engineering reports on pump control and residuals management from industry conferences like WaterJam 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the critical regulatory updates shaping the next decade, specifically the lead and copper rule improvements, the LCRI, and the urgency driving Virginia's new 2-hour reporting rule.
It's truly a journey that starts in deep space and ends in a bureaucratic review meeting.
Right.
By the end of this, you'll possess knowledge that really few consumers ever bother to acquire, and you'll never look at your water bill the same way again.
I certainly hope we achieve that level of insight. Okay, let's start at the absolute beginning, part 1, the cosmic foundation.
Let's do it.
To understand why we invest billions in managing water, we first have to appreciate what a chemical miracle water actually is. It's a complete outlier.
It truly is. The sources we looked at rightfully position it as a standout in the cosmic chemistry set. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
If water behaved like most other known liquids, life on Earth as we know it, simply, it wouldn't be possible.
So what is the single most defining characteristic about water that makes it so unique, according to the scientists in our stack?
Well, it's not one thing. It's a series of sort of paradoxical anomalies, all stemming from its structure, that 2 hydrogens attach to 1 oxygen atom, creating that V shape.
That classic Mickey Mouse shape.
Exactly. And this polarity allows for the powerful attraction we call hydrogen bonding.
And the most famous result of hydrogen bonding is, of course, the density anomaly. Ice floats.
Exactly. For nearly every other substance, when you cool it and transition it from a liquid to a solid, the molecules pack more tightly, making the solid denser than the liquid. It sinks.
Right.
But water is the exception. As water cools below 4 degrees Celsius, the hydrogen bonds force the molecules to lock into this incredibly open, hexagonal crystal lattice structure.
So they're not getting closer together, they're actually holding themselves farther apart.
They're literally holding each other at arm's length.
So if you were to look at it under a microscope, the ice structure is full of open space,
Yeah.
unlike the denser random packing of the liquid state.
Precisely. And this is crucial. If ice sank, lakes and oceans would freeze solid from the bottom up during winter.
And that would be it for aquatic life.
It would permanently destroy aquatic ecosystems. But because ice floats, it forms an insulating blanket on the surface, protecting the liquid water and all the life beneath it.
That's ecosystem survival, but that expansion also has massive geological implications, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Think about geological time. When water seeps into rock cracks and freezes, that expansion acts as a massive natural wedge, just forcing the rock apart.
The freeze-thaw cycle.
That constant freezing and thawing drives mountain erosion, creating soil, sediment, and shaping our landscapes over millions of years.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Water as Earth's giant thermostat. We're talking about its high specific heat capacity.
Water is incredibly resistant to temperature change. It requires a staggering amount of energy to raise the temperature of a mass of water by even 1 degree.
And the ocean, which covers, what, 70% of the globe?
It acts as a colossal thermal reservoir.
And this property is what keeps global temperatures stable. Without it, coastal regions would experience these violent temperature swings between day and night, season to season. They'd be uninhabitable.
And that scales right down to us. That high specific heat is coupled with an incredibly high heat of vaporization.
Which is the amount of energy required to convert liquid water to gas.
Right.
And that's why sweating works.
It is the absolute foundation of mammalian temperature control. When 1 gram of sweat evaporates from your skin, it absorbs and carries away 580 calories of heat energy.
Wow.
It is a highly efficient biological cooling mechanism, relying entirely on the fundamental physics of the water molecule.
Then you have its role as the universal solvent.
Water is unparalleled in its ability to dissolve other substances. This again comes down to its polarity.
That V-shape.
That V-shape. Because it has a slight positive charge near the hydrogens and a slight negative charge near the oxygen, water molecules can effectively surround and just pull apart ionic and polar compounds.
The chemistry papers we looked at were quick to point out that if life were based on an alternative liquids like liquid hydrogen or liquid methane,
Which are nonpolar.
right, nonpolar, they would be terrible solvents. They couldn't dissolve the complex sugars, proteins, and DNA necessary for complex biological processes. You need water's properties to build life.
What's fascinating here is that every single life function, from digestion to cellular respiration, depends on the efficient transport and reaction of molecules, all facilitated by water acting as the solvent medium. It's the soup of life.
It is. And finally, let's appreciate the ancient history of this molecule. Our sources note that the water we drink today is often older than the Earth itself.
That's a staggering thought, isn't it? Much of the hydrogen and oxygen that make up Earth's water likely formed in interstellar molecular clouds before our solar system even coalesced.
So it was brought here.
It was brought here perhaps by comets or incorporated into the planet's formation. Every single drop you consume has been part of countless planetary cycles over billions of years.
It has flowed through volcanoes, been locked up in glaciers, and yes, it could have literally flowed through the bloodstream of a Cretaceous dinosaur.
It really could have.
That perspective makes this simple act of turning on a tap feel monumental.
That's the point. We are using a resource that is finite in volume, infinite in history, and utterly unique in its chemistry.
Okay, let's transition from the cosmic foundation to the constant, powerful engine that drives our planet, the water cycle. This is where we go way beyond the simple high school diagram of clouds and rain.
Yeah, that diagram is a useful start, but the water cycle is not just about moving molecules. It's one of Earth's most powerful energy engines. It's constantly exchanging and redistributing massive amounts of energy.
And the core truth is endless recycling, right? The water we have now is essentially all the water Earth has ever had, just constantly circulating. But where does the energy come in?
It comes in 2 phases, evaporation and condensation. Evaporation is the constant, quiet escape of the fasting, hottest water molecules from the surface, drawing heat away. This process requires a colossal input of solar energy.
Which the water absorbs.
It absorbs and stores it as something called latent heat.
So when that vapor rises, the water is literally carrying solar energy with it, like a massive rechargeable battery moving through the atmosphere.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. Then condensation is the flip side. When that warm, moist air rises, cools, and the vapor turns back into liquid water droplets or ice crystals forming cloud,
It releases all that energy.
it releases all that stored latent heat back into the atmosphere.
And that release of energy is huge. It's what drives weather.
That's the energy engine we're talking about. The release of latent heat up in the atmosphere creates buoyancy and pressure differences, which powers everything from gentle spring rains to the fierce intensity of thunderstorms and hurricanes. It shapes global circulation patterns and regulates planetary temperature.
So after the rain or snow, the collection phase is critical. And it's not just one path. Our sources define it as a branching network of subcycles.
Right. You have the fast loops, surface runoff, which quickly flows into streams, rivers, and man-made reservoirs. This water is constantly moving. Then you have transpiration plants taking up moisture through their roots and basically sweating it back into the atmosphere as vapor through their leaves.
A very fast local loop.
A very fast local loop, integral to forest ecosystems.
But the slow loops are what provide stability, acting as planetary savings accounts.
Crucially, a huge volume of water infiltrates the ground, recharging groundwater and aquifers. This water can remain stored underground for decades, centuries, or even millennia in deep fossil aquifers that receive very little modern recharge.
And that stored water is vital.
It's vital for sustained life and agriculture, particularly in arid regions.
And then, of course, the ice. Snowpack and glaciers act as long-term storage, locking up water as ice and releasing it slowly to feed rivers during warmer spring and summer months.
Yes, and this stabilizes river flows and keeps civilizations fed.
That's a great way to put it. The cycle has memory. Some water remembers yesterday's rain, some remembers the last ice age, and some is currently in storage waiting for a century to pass before it's released.
Exactly.
And this brings us perfectly to the crucial distinction that often gets tangled up in public discourse: weather versus climate.
Oh, they are constantly confused. Weather is the short-term dynamic condition. What's happening outside your window right now? Temperature, wind, and rain.
The day-to-day.
If the seasons and the cycle are the main theme of a symphony, weather is the rapidly improvised melody playing over the top.
It's driven by constantly interacting forces, huge air masses colliding, forming fronts, and powerful steering winds like the jet stream. Tiny changes in those initial conditions, what we call a chaotic system,
Right. They can lead to wildly different results.
which is why the classic butterfly effect idea holds true for forecasting. The atmosphere is incredibly sensitive to those tiny initial changes, making long-range weather forecasting notoriously difficult.
It really is.
Climate, on the other hand, is the long-term pattern of weather, the average conditions, plus the range of variations and extremes, typically measured over decades.
Weather is the outfit you choose today. Climate is your entire wardrobe. It's your planet's autobiography.
That's a great way to think about it, and this distinction is vital for understanding the twin concepts of global warming and climate change.
Yes. Global warming refers specifically to the observed long-term increase in Earth's average surface temperature, primarily driven by the buildup of greenhouse gases like CO2.
It's the planet running a fever.
It's the fever,
Yeah.
and climate change is the broader term. It encompasses the warming, but also all the resulting consequences and increased volatility, the symptoms of the fever. It's the destabilization of the entire water cycle.
So that includes shifting precipitation patterns, more intense rainfall and flooding in some areas because the warmer air holds more moisture.
Coupled with deeper, longer droughts in others. Plus, melting ice sheets, rising sea levels, and the increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events like intense heat domes and stronger hurricanes.
So when someone points to a cold day or a heavy snowstorm and says, "See, global warming isn't real," they are fundamentally confusing the short-term improvisation of weather with the long-term predictable trend of climate.
Exactly. We are focused on the long-term trend and the increased severity of the extremes.
That sets the stage perfectly. We've established the cosmic miracle that water is. Now, let's transition from the ancient cosmic foundation to the highly engineered and a much more modern part two, the hidden machine.
Yes.
This is where we examine the staggering, multi-million-mile effort required by humanity to manage that miracle molecule.
And this is the part of the system that is designed to be invisible. The fact that we don't think about it is a testament to its scale and complexity, yet it is monumentally scaled and financially complex.
Let's start with the sheer scope of the pipe network beneath our feet. I mean, the
Sure.
numbers, they just defy easy visualization.
They really do. The U.S. alone has over 2.2 million miles of buried drinking water pipes.
2.2 million.
To give you some perspective, that is enough pipe to circle the Earth at the equator about 88 times.
Wow.
Imagine laying that infrastructure over the last century, connecting every city, every town, every building.
And the cost of replacing or even maintaining that. When we look at the engineering reports, installation of 1 mile of new water main, especially in dense urban environments,
Right, where you have to deal with traffic, existing utilities, bedrock.
it can easily cost anywhere from $1 million to $5 million for 1 mile.
This creates a constant, massive infrastructure challenge for municipalities. They are dealing with pipes that might be 80 or 100 years old, often made of materials like cast iron or cement.
And because these systems are buried, they have to be designed for maximum resilience. They rely on interconnected looped networks rather than single branches.
Redundancy is the name of the game. If there's a break in one section, utilities can isolate the break while rerouting the water through other parts of the loop, minimizing service interruptions.
And they also use carefully engineered pressure zones.
Yes, to manage the gravitational effects of elevation changes across a city, ensuring consistent water pressure without rupturing pipes in the valleys.
But the constant invisible enemy of this entire buried network is the leak, the water loss before it ever reaches the consumer.
It is a massive drain on resources and cost. And finding a leak in a pipe buried maybe 8 feet down beneath asphalt and concrete requires specialized high-tech detective work.
So what do they do?
Utilities employ acoustic sensors, highly sensitive listening devices that are inserted into the system to locate the telltale hiss or rush of water escaping a pressurized pipe.
So they're literally hunting for a sound underground.
They are. Additionally, they use sophisticated flow monitoring systems that continuously track water input and output across small geographic zones.
So if there's a spike.
Right. If they detect a sudden, unexplained spike in usage within a specific area where no customer is requesting that water, it flags a likely, often large, break.
And the repair itself is costly, disruptive excavation, digging up streets, closing roads, dealing with unexpected subsurface conditions. It's a mess.
It's an ongoing, resource-intensive war against time and entropy, often invisible until a water main bursts.
Okay, so let's talk about what happens before the water even enters those pipes. Treatment. The entire treatment philosophy and its immense cost are entirely dictated by the source water you start with.
Absolutely.
We can outline the conventional treatment train. Screening to remove large debris, coagulation, and flocculation to clump fine particles together.
Sedimentation to let those clumps settle out. Filtration with sand or carbon to polish the water. And finally, disinfection, typically with chlorine or UV light.
That's the standard process, but the real complexity lies in the source water philosophies. Take New York City, for instance.
They are the gold standard. They benefit from highly protected, massive watersheds upstate, covering thousands of square miles of forest.
So the source water is incredibly clean to begin with.
Right. Because of that, NYC benefits from a rare EPA filtration waiver. They blend that natural filtration provided by the soil and forest ecosystem with modern UV and chlorine disinfection.
Which gives them high-quality water at a relatively low energy and financial cost compared to other cities.
A much lower cost. Now, contrast that with cities in the desert Southwest, like Los Angeles and Phoenix. Their reality is completely different. They're using engineering to defeat geography.
Entirely. LA and Phoenix rely heavily on massive, long-distance water imports, bringing water hundreds of miles through immense aqueducts from sources like the distant Colorado River.
And that involves colossal energy costs for pumping over mountains and significant evaporation losses along the way, not to mention the massive interstate geopolitical strains and necessary cutbacks.
And Phoenix specifically had to address a historical crisis of groundwater depletion.
Yes, decades of historical overuse caused aquifers to drop severely, leading to land subsidence. The ground literally sank.
Wow.
This forced them into incredibly complex and expensive strategies to manage their remaining groundwater and maximize the use of imported surface water, recognizing that the deep fossil aquifers are irreplaceable on human timescales.
And for coastal or very dry regions where there's no surface water available or the population just outstrips the supply, they're turned to two incredibly high-tech, energy-intensive options.
First, desalination. Converting seawater into drinking water using reverse osmosis.
Which is an incredible technological feat, but very expensive and energy-intensive.
It is. The Carlsbad desalination plant in California, for example, supplies about 10% of San Diego's water needs. It's a guaranteed drought-proof supply, but you pay a premium for that guarantee.
And the other option is advanced potable reuse, or treating wastewater back to drinking water standards, the concept many people still struggle with, the so-called toilet-to-tap idea.
This is truly state-of-the-art. Orange County, California runs the world's largest system for this. Wastewater goes through 3 intense phases.
What are they?
Microfiltration to remove solids and bacteria, high-pressure reverse osmosis to strip out salts, viruses, and pharmaceuticals, and finally, UV light combined with hydrogen peroxide to sterilize and eliminate any trace organic chemicals.
And once it's purified, where does it go?
It's ultra-purified, often cleaner than the original source water, and then it's injected back into groundwater aquifers.
So it serves a dual purpose.
It does. It creates a sustainable, new water source that recycles everything. And it also prevents saltwater intrusion from the nearby ocean from contaminating the freshwater stores. It turns wastewater into a valuable, reliable resource.
So geography literally dictates your entire water story. It determines cost, sustainability, and complexity. It's a massive technological effort to defeat natural limitations.
It is. And speaking of complexity and cost, we have to address the hidden operational burden of residuals management.
Residuals, the byproducts or waste streams generated during the cleaning process, are often cited in the engineering reports as the single biggest operational cost, which is completely counterintuitive for the public.
It sounds simple, but it's brutally expensive. Residuals include the sludge created during coagulation and sedimentation, the filter of backwash water, and concentrates from specialized processes like reverse osmosis.
And the disposal of these residuals can account for a shocking, what was it, 30 to 50% of the operating costs in medium-sized water treatment plants.
30 to 50%.
Just for waste disposal, why is that number so high?
It's because of the regulatory environment and the physics of water hauling. Regulators, the EPA and state agencies, have strict permits on how these materials, particularly biosolids, are handled and disposed of. This drives up the cost of testing, transportation, and final disposal.
And most of that waste is still water, which is incredibly heavy and expensive to transport.
Exactly. Hauling wet sludge, which might be 97% water, is financially ruinous. So to reduce volume and cut hauling costs, plants use dewatering technologies to squeeze the water out, aiming for a semi-solid cake that is maybe 15% to 30% solids.
Let's compare the three main workhorses for this dewatering process, which illustrates the operational trade-offs utilities constantly face.
Okay. We have centrifuges. They spin the sludge at extremely high speeds, relying on centrifugal force to separate the solids from the liquid.
What are the pros and cons?
They offer high solids capture and are great for odor containment because they are fully enclosed, but they require high energy input, frequent maintenance, and specialized parts. They're expensive.
Then we have screw presses.
These use a large screw mechanism to slowly and steadily press the water out against a perforated casing. They have lower energy and noise profiles than centrifuges, making them popular in smaller facilities.
Oh.
But they tend to achieve a lower final solids dryness, and if you can't get the moisture content low enough, you're still paying too much to haul it away.
And finally, the classic belt filter presses, BFPs.
BFPs use a continuous process where sludge is sandwiched between two moving belts that pass over a series of rollers, mechanically squeezing the water out.
And the trade-off there.
They are continuous and high throughput, but they are notoriously labor-intensive, require lots of operator attention for cleaning the belts, and are prone to odors and splashing, creating a messier operating environment.
What's fascinating is how the emerging environmental concerns are now layering on even more cost, specifically with the rise of PFAS, the forever chemicals.
This is quickly becoming the next multi-billion-dollar problem for utilities, particularly concerning residuals. PFAS are per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, ubiquitous chemicals linked to various health concerns.
And they are extremely difficult to destroy.
Exactly. And they concentrate heavily in the sludge.
Which is a huge problem.
In 2024, the EPA issued interim guidance regarding residuals containing PFAS, especially spent granular activated carbon, or GAC, which is often used to remove these chemicals from the water stream itself.
And the bigger concern is biosolids, the treated sewage sludge that's often land-applied as fertilizer.
Absolutely. The threat of finding PFAS in any land-applied residuals is increasing public scrutiny and dramatically raising costs. While final federal rules on land application are expected in the next year or so, the mere anticipation is forcing utilities to budget conservatively.
Budgeting for what?
For increased testing and potentially entirely new, much more expensive disposal pathways like high heat incineration or specialized landfills.
Because if a utility can no longer land apply its biosolids, which is the cheapest option, the cost jumps astronomically to hauling and landfilling or incineration, which requires massive energy input.
Precisely. This is a direct financial consequence of emerging chemistry.
And this is all happening while utilities are also facing immense pressure to meet the proposed maximum contaminant levels for PFOA and PFOS, the two main PFAS compounds, which are being set at levels so low, around 4 parts per trillion, that they are functionally zero.
And the technologies needed to achieve that advanced GAC, ion exchange, or high-pressure membranes are incredibly expensive to install and operate.
That pressure to meet near zero levels while also dealing with the residual waste stream encapsulates the current operational stress on the hidden machine.
Really does.
Okay, let's pivot from massive infrastructure to intelligent management. We're moving to part 3, the digital frontier, starting with a granular chemical problem, controlling corrosive, odorous hydrogen sulfide, or H2S, in sewer systems.
H2S is a nightmare for utilities. It smells like rotten eggs, creates hazardous conditions for workers, and critically, it generates sulfuric acid, which rapidly corrodes concrete pipes and expensive machinery.
So utilities dose chemicals to manage it, but the choice between the methods involves critical strategic trade-offs, which we saw highlighted in the rapid growth of places like Loudoun County, Virginia.
Right. The first approach is bioxide, a nitrate-based solution. The nitrates don't attack the sulfide directly, they work biologically.
How so?
They are introduced to the wastewater stream to provide an alternate electron acceptor for the naturally occurring microbes.
So you're essentially feeding the microbes something else to distract them.
Exactly. When microbes decompose organic matter, they need oxygen or an alternative. If nitrates are present, the microbes use them instead of the sulfates in the water. If they use sulfates, they produce corrosive H2S. By supplying nitrates, you prevent the H2S formation.
What's the trade-off here?
Nitrates create less chemical solids than iron-based solutions, which is a disposal plus, but they require high volume. They are used up rapidly, making them expensive. And they risk rebound.
What's rebound?
If the dosing is slightly off, the H2S immediately comes back, causing emergency pump-outs, odor complaints, and reactive maintenance. It's a constant balancing act.
And the alternative, Sulflox, a buffered iron solution.
Sulflox works chemically and directly. The iron in the solution is introduced to the water and acts as a chelating agent. It immediately binds with the free sulfide molecules, locking them into a non-volatile compound called ferrous sulfide.
So the H2S is gone instantly.
Instantly. Because of this direct binding, the volume required is significantly less.
How much less?
Much less. The case study in Loudoun County showed they needed a 3-to-1 reduction in volume compared to the nitrate solution, which translated to an estimated 20% cost savings in chemical procurement.
But this approach creates more predictable solids, iron solids.
It does, and that's the strategic choice. Do you prioritize avoiding chemical solids, the nitrate approach, and risk rebound emergencies? Or do you achieve stable, immediate H2S control, the iron approach, and manage the resulting solids buildup with routine, planned maintenance?
For rapidly growing utilities with high flow variability, stable control often wins, right? It reduces those costly, disruptive emergency calls that require a high deployment of resources.
It shifts the maintenance burden from reactive to predictable.
Now let's talk about the heart of the distribution system, the pumps, and how modern control logic ensures their longevity and efficiency.
This is where we shift from just installing strong equipment to installing smart systems, and it all starts with defining the pump's health zones based on hydraulic efficiency curves.
You have the preferred operating region, or POR, the green zone.
This is the sweet spot defined by the manufacturer. Operating in the POR means the pump is closest to its best efficiency point, minimizing energy consumption, hydraulic stress, and vibration. It's the optimal low-risk operational zone.
Then the allowable operating region, AOR, the yellow zone.
Acceptable, but less efficient. The pump can run there without unacceptable damage, but efficiency drops, wear increases, and the risk profile rises slightly. The mandate of smart control systems is simple. Keep the pump in the POR as much as physically possible.
And the major destructive threat that drives this careful control is the pump destroyer cavitation. This is tied directly to a concept called net positive suction head, or NPSH.
Cavitation is the physical phenomenon that erodes pumps from the inside out. It happens when the flow rate or pressure conditions inside the pump, specifically near the inlet, where pressure drops sharply, fall below the vapor pressure of the water.
And what happens when the pressure drops below the vapor pressure?
The water momentarily boils, forming tiny vapor bubbles. As those bubbles are carried to higher pressure zones further inside the pump, they violently collapse.
And this collapse doesn't just cause noise. It creates microscopic shock waves.
Literally, microexplosions happening thousands of times a second that batter the surface of the impeller, physically eating away the metal.
And that destructive force, the microjetting erosion, is far more likely when the flow rates stray outside the preferred operating region.
Exactly. When flow is too high or too low, the hydraulic conditions become unstable, the pressure drops are more extreme, and the NPSH margin, the buffer you need to prevent that boiling, shrinks drastically. Staying in the green zone isn't just about saving energy. It's fundamentally about protecting the pump from being destroyed by those internal micro-explosions.
It extends its asset life from years to decades.
It does.
So how do modern utilities achieve this high level of operational precision?
They rely on clear documentation and industrial brains. It begins with the functional control narrative. This is the strategy document that defines exactly how the system should operate under every contingency.
It's the playbook.
It's the playbook. It details what level the well should be at, how fast the pumps should ramp up, and when they should switch.
And who executes that strategy?
The PLCs, or programmable logic controllers. These are the rugged industrial computer brains installed on site. They take real-time sensor data pressure, flow, vibration, and execute the control narrative, adjusting pump speeds via variable frequency drives to keep the flow precisely within that efficient, protective POR.
This level of digital control is fantastic for efficiency and longevity, but it brings us to the ultimate paradox of modern water management: the role of AI. It is essential for optimizing water systems, but it's consuming water at a massive, alarming rate.
It is the defining duality of the 21st century utility. We call it the thirsty cloud. The data centers powering AI and machine learning rely heavily on evaporative cooling to manage the immense heat generated by server farms.
And evaporative cooling literally consumes water. It turns it into vapor.
Correct. Our sources cited that a single megawatt of data center capacity can use around 25.5 million liters of water a year.
To put that in human terms, that amount of water is comparable to the daily usage of about 300,000 people.
It's staggering.
And what's deeply concerning is that since 2022, over two-thirds of new data centers have gone up in areas already facing severe water stress, like the Southwest U.S., Texas, and Arizona.
This puts immense strain on local supplies, creating competition for water resources between public utilities, agriculture, and high-tech industry. This competition is a major policy challenge utilities are now grappling with.
However, the duality remains. AI is also absolutely essential for utility management and optimization.
It provides sophisticated tools that human operators simply cannot replicate at scale. For instance, predictive maintenance, PDM.
So instead of waiting for a pump to fail,
AI analyzes sensor data vibration patterns, temperature spikes, flow anomalies to forecast equipment failure days or weeks before it occurs, allowing staff to schedule maintenance proactively.
which is far cheaper than reactive emergency replacement.
Precisely. We also see the use of digital twins, virtual high-fidelity replicas of the physical system. Utilities use these twins to simulate system responses to massive events like a major pipe break or a 100-year flood event.
Allowing them to test emergency protocols risk-free before deployment.
Exactly.
And finally, optimization of staff time.
AI algorithms optimize workforce scheduling, routing crews based on risk priority and proximity, ensuring that limited human capital is deployed where it can have the greatest impact on system reliability.
But the more interconnected and digital the system becomes, the more vulnerable it is to the single greatest threat, the cyber threat.
That's the high-stakes risk of full digital integration. Modern utilities rely completely on those SCADA systems, supervisory control and data acquisition, to monitor and control everything remotely, from pump speeds to chemical dosing.
And these digital controls are vulnerable to malicious hacking, creating a direct public health threat.
The famous and deeply disturbing example is the 2021 Oldsmar, Florida incident, where a hacker remotely accessed the system and attempted to dramatically increase the level of sodium hydroxide, or lye, in the finished water to toxic levels.
This is a major wake-up call. It illustrated that a simple digital breach can lead to mass poisoning.
Luckily, an operator saw the cursor moving suspiciously and immediately reversed the command.
But the safety of water increasingly depends on the integrity of firewalls and the vigilance of IT staff.
And this is why AI is now being deployed to defend these systems. AI acts as a sophisticated digital immune system.
How so?
It's constantly scanning network traffic and sensor data like flow, pH, and chlorine levels to flag subtle anomalies or suspicious commands that might indicate intrusion or a physical security breach.
That is a powerful point. We've covered cosmic chemistry, colossal infrastructure, and high-tech digital control. Now let's move to part 4, trust, policy, and the human element, because all this high-tech engineering and chemistry is meaningless if the policies and public trust surrounding water safety fail.
This section addresses the massive, ongoing regulatory response to historical failures, primarily centering on the legacy problem of lead service lines.
We're talking about the rigorous foundational new regulations, the Lead and Copper Rule Improvements, or LCRI. The core mandate here is absolutely clear: to identify and ultimately eliminate all unknown service lines across the country.
This is a monumental task because it requires utilities to become historians and geologists overnight. The core deadline is November 1st, 2027. By this date, water systems must complete a comprehensive service line inventory.
And that means searching through decades of paper records, old maps, building permits, and often costly fieldwork.
Exactly, and that fieldwork often involves physically digging small test holes or potholing near the meter or the curb stop to visually verify the pipe material.
Because many utilities simply recorded lines as unknown if they didn't know the material, which is no longer acceptable.
The LCRI forces them to actively verify every single line.
And the policy demands rapid, transparent notification if things go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. If lead action levels are exceeded in samples taken across the system, the policy demands rapid, Tier 1 public notice issued within 24 hours.
24 hours.
That's a critical reduction in notification time, demanding immediate, rapid alert to the community about potential elevated lead exposure risks.
And the regulations specifically target the most vulnerable populations.
They do. Utilities must proactively contact and offer sampling services and share the results immediately with schools and licensed childcare centers. This is a direct, proactive step to safeguard children who are exponentially more susceptible to the developmental harms of lead exposure than adults.
The most urgent warning from our sources regarding the LCRI is about budgeting urgency, tying back to the massive costs we discussed earlier.
Yes, the costs of verification and replacement will be in the tens or hundreds of millions for large utilities. If utilities wait until 2027 to budget for these multi-million-dollar cost pipe verification, replacement, and expanded monitoring, they risk devastating rate shock for consumers.
So they have to act now.
They must budget now, actively chase federal funding through state infrastructure banks, and start phased replacement programs to spread that financial load over time.
Beyond lead, there is a new, intense demand for faster, clearer communication during all public health crises. This is exemplified by Virginia's new 2-hour reporting rule, effective July 2025.
This law requires utilities to report potential widespread public health impacts, anything from E. coli detection to a major treatment plant failure within 2 hours of discovery to the state health department.
An incredibly tight time frame.
It is. It's designed to ensure rapid awareness and quicker public response.
The initial trial run of this rule, however, exposed significant practical hurdles that illustrate the difficulty of implementing such high-speed policy.
The biggest challenge was immediate triage. Utilities were swamped, struggling to filter minor, routine maintenance issues from true, imminent emergencies that required a public health alert. The sheer volume of calls showed how difficult it is to immediately classify an event as a 2-hour emergency.
So it required regulators, VDH, and DEQ to fine-tune their guidance and hotline staffing.
Yes. They needed to provide much clearer definitions and support to utilities to balance the need for extreme responsiveness without being completely swamped by non-emergencies. The goal is to ensure the public trusts the rapid alert system, which means it must only be used for true emergencies.
And transparency is fundamental for regaining trust. The LCRI mandates that for large systems, the verified service line inventories must be made publicly accessible online.
Furthermore, and critically, all communications, consumer confidence reports, urgent alerts, public notices must be accessible to limited English proficiency (LEP) populations. When health is at risk, language cannot be a barrier to access.
Now, despite all the billions invested in the high-tech systems we've discussed, the MBRs, the AI, the PLCs, the system is still deeply vulnerable to the simplest factor: human error. The Luckett's MBR failure in Virginia is a perfect, costly anecdote for this.
It really is. The Luckett's facility had a state-of-the-art membrane bioreactor system. MBRs use ultrafine membranes to filter wastewater, producing incredibly high-quality effluent. But those microscopic membranes are exquisitely sensitive to incompatible chemicals.
Why are they so sensitive?
The pore size on these membranes is microscopic, far smaller than traditional filters. They are designed to let purified water pass through while blocking even the smallest particles and bacteria. They rely on frequent, intense backwashing to clear the pores.
And if the pores are coated by a viscous or chemically inert substance,
The backwash can't clean them, and the membrane becomes blinded.
and the Luckett system kept failing, requiring repeated, costly membrane replacement. What was the cause?
Analysis traced the failures back to incompatible cleaning chemicals entering the sewer, highly concentrated during low flow periods, particularly summer break.
And the likely culprit was
Cleaning staff at the connected elementary school disposing of high polymer floor wax and harsh cleaners down the drain.
a completely innocuous, common act of disposal by an external stakeholder, someone completely unaware of the downstream effects, sabotaged a multi-million-dollar high-tech system.
It is the ultimate lesson in unintended consequences. The cost of replacing MBR membranes can easily exceed $100,000 per incident.
Wow.
The success of the system relies on external stakeholders, the school staff, the community, industrial users, understanding the sensitive consequences of their actions.
So system reliability isn't just about the PLC logic, it's about the knowledge gap in the community.
Correct. Community education is essential to bridge that gap. You must explain to that elementary school cleaning staff that 1 gallon of floor wax, improperly disposed of, can potentially cost taxpayers thousands of dollars in emergency membrane replacement.
This entire deep dive brings us back to the core philosophical tension governing all water management, a tension we all live with every time we pay our utility bill. Water is a universal right versus the economic cost.
Water is fundamentally tied to life, dignity, and public health. That is the moral argument, recognized by the UN as a basic human right. Everyone must have access to safe water.
But sourcing, treating, pumping it across 2.2 million miles of pipe and maintaining that delicate infrastructure is incredibly energy intensive and expensive. That is the economic argument. Utilities have to be paid, or the system fails, leading to public health crises.
The tension lies in the concept of collective stewardship. Do we prioritize water purely as a public good, ensuring universal access and public health regardless of ability to pay? Or do we treat it as a commodity, prioritizing private profit, as often seen in the marketing and distribution of bottled water?
Ultimately, your water bill isn't just the price of water molecules. It is the necessary price of maintaining that vast, invisible, essential system. It's the cost of keeping civilization's hidden contract intact.
Exactly. Ensuring the water is clean, treated, and delivered reliably under immense pressure.
And individual actions, fixing leaks in your home, conscious conservation, actively reading your utilities annual report, and supporting local leaders who prioritize funding for infrastructure contribute directly to that collective resilience.
They absolutely do.
We have journeyed from water's unique cosmic chemistry, the reason ice floats and why we can cool ourselves through sweat, to the sheer engineering required to deliver it through a vast invisible network spanning 2.2 million miles of pipe.
We've seen how digital brains and AI manage everything from pump longevity by avoiding destructive cavitation to protecting our systems from malicious cyber attacks. And we've learned the complex, evolving policy stakes in dealing with chemical threats like H2S and the massive, necessary regulatory push of the LCRI to restore public trust in the system.
And finally, we've learned that whether it's a massive utility using digital twins or a small community plant, the entire system is vulnerable when the human element fails, underscoring the vital need for education and coordination across all stakeholders, even down to the janitorial staff.
The whole thing is a deep system of trust invisible, unglamorous, yet one we rely on completely every single minute of every single day.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to carry forward, centered on intergenerational equity and the hidden contract we discussed. When we fail to invest adequately in infrastructure today, when we kick the multi-million-dollar can of pipe replacement down the road, when we deplete ancient fossil aquifers faster than they can recharge or pollute shared resources with long-lasting chemicals like PFAS, we are quite literally borrowing stability from the future.
We are burdening the next generation with our problems and our debts.
So what single small change can you make to lighten the load on this vital hidden system? Whether it's fixing a high-volume toilet leak in your yard, actively scrutinizing how your local leaders plan to fund the LCRI requirements, or simply demanding greater transparency from your utility ensuring clean water serves everyone with dignity and justice, now and for generations to come.